Hi everyone, my name is Annelies James-Ryan and I'm from a company called 22Midnight. Today, on behalf of Enterprise South, I'm going to be going through some digital marketing and the buying cycle with you. So I'm just going to share my screen and let's get started. Okay, so as mentioned, working on behalf of Enterprise South, I am going to be talking to you about digital marketing. And basically, we're going to be looking at building trust through brand awareness, ambassadorship, and a resilient buying cycle. My name's Annelies, and I call myself a brand and digital content strategist, but realistically, I just focus on good content, asking your ideal client good questions, and then putting that together into a marketing plan that you can follow and enact. So if your ideal client says that they're really interested in audio or visual content, then I would come in, for example, and to look at how you could bring in video and podcasting into your business, as an example. So brand and digital content strategist is just a fancy way of saying I do marketing. So before we begin, I focus on personal branding, I would say, but I feel like personal brand sometimes has a bit of a difficult reputation. It kind of seems a bit of a shiny, fake thing to talk about. So I like to think about business and branding as being purposeful branding. So it's how you consider your values, your staff, your mission, but you make everything that you do purposeful in your business. And humanizing your brand, talking about the thoughts, feelings, mission, values, vision, and of the business really helps to enable connection. You're being purposeful in the way that you communicate, and you're being purposeful in how human you are, which might be showcasing your staff or showcasing your journey, things you've learned along the way. And it's just choosing to be helpful, creative, and human. We are all human and we need to emotionally connect to each other. So 95% of buying decisions, according to Harvard, are subconscious, which means that we're always operating on the feeling spectrum of things. We might think that we think things and do things, but actually, more often than not, we feel something about a product, service, brand, or person, and then we choose to engage. Likewise, 90% of people will buy from people they feel that they trust. So if you're a brand and you are creating it with staff as ambassadors in mind, or you're being very open about your management team and showing yourselves as people, and people trust you, they're more likely to buy from you. And a little bit more science here. We act on two circles of influence, which I've touched on already. One inner, which is our subconscious, intrinsic, internal locus. It's all emotional and psychological. It's those gut feelings. It's that kind of feeling that someone's being maybe disingenuous or a brand isn't quite what they say they are. And then we shift over the balance tips. Once we have thoughts, feelings about a brand or a company or individual, we then act on it. So this is our conscious, extrinsic, and external locus of control. We actually have little control over what our brains do, although our minds will tell us that they're totally in control. Simply put, we feel first and then we do. So if you can make people feel something, you can make people buy from you. Like I always say, make them feel, make them follow. And with personal branding and purposeful branding and anything to do with marketing, it really is the art of the subtle. And I recently saw on LinkedIn that someone had put a post up about, oh yeah, the next time you want a plumber, are you going to keep an eye out for what their brand values are? And I thought about it for a minute and I thought it was kind of funny because, Kevin the plumber isn't going to be talking openly about his values, but the content he might be sharing or the reviews he might be getting might give you an understanding of who he is as a person, which would be the stuff that triggers your gut reaction. So whilst I think it was a funny post that someone put, it's actually the subtlety, it's the language that you use, it's the warmth that you use, it's the tone of voice, the emotion. All the content that you put out in the world just gives people an impression of you. So it's not blatant, it's subtle. So first things first, purposeful personal branding is basically building trust. That's what we need to do. So really, I've given you a number of ways that we can do that. First and foremost, you need to be really, really clear about the way that you do business and the why, because it's the fundamental values that underpin your business, and we connect through values. You need to enable people to understand the benefit. So what do you actually do for people in a real way? How do you really affect their life? You can think right now of clients that you might have and how your services or your product or your people have changed their lives, transformed their lives. So talk about that specific thing. I always say, speak to the need in someone and speak of the benefit. And social proof is another way to build trust. So if you have services and products that do benefit people, surely they must have said something somewhere. So there must be evidence, or at least people prepared to share that you have changed their lives or impacted their business in a positive way. Another way to build trust is people talking about you instead of you talking about you. So creating a critical mass or a mass consensus about you. And I call this the Richard Branson effect. I used to run a lot of workshops, and I would say at the beginning of them, tell me about Richard Branson, and the entire room would have an opinion on him. Entrepreneur, forward thinking, innovative, all of these wonderful, lovely words. We all generally had a shared opinion of him. And then I would ask the question, well, who's actually met him? And no one had. So really getting other people to have a shared collective opinion of you as a brand or a business is really, really powerful. Because if I tell you that I'm amazing at social content, you'll think I'm trying to sell you something. If someone else tells you, you'll think, oh, okay, yeah, maybe she is pretty good. That's how it works. Likewise, get great brands talking about you. So being associated with good people, products, or brands that are already trusted does a lot of the work for you. And a good example of this in my specific business is that I'm running a TEDx event. And TEDx has an entire following and an entire ethos. So a little bit of that stardust rubs off on me and my business. Also consider here press and PR opportunities, local magazines, local publications that you could get featured in because they already have a following and a reputation. Delivering on your promises is absolutely essential when you're building trust. So the proof is really in the pudding. So referral, word of mouth, and good reviews will show people that you deliver on what you do and you say what you're going to do. So I'd like you to take a minute. If you'd like to pause this here and think about these questions, then please do. So some clarity questions. Do you have brand, business, or personal values? How does your brand live and breathe your values? How does your team live and breathe your values? How do your values weave into your business plan, mission statement, and vision? How do you communicate your values through your social media content and communication strategy? I was working with a client yesterday, and they had a set of values that they believed in. So it was caring, trusted, friendly, etc. They had about 5 or 6. And I asked them to talk about social content and write some examples of the things that they would share. And none of them mentioned their actual values that they were talking about. So there's a disconnect there. So if you really do believe your business is about giving or creativity, you need to be communicating that, because other like-minded people will want to talk about your business and want to connect with your business if you share values. The values are the mushy stuff that connects us. Likewise, your team and your brand need to live and breathe your values. You need to showcase that you do these every day, and they're not just a tick box exercise. So when you hire and you recruit, they need to have a similar value set to you. And also feel free to use your values. So again, if it was creativity, fun, joy, boldness, whatever, weave them into your business statement, your mission statement, your vision. Write a sentence that includes those values, and you can all read it regularly and think, yes, this is what we stand for. So another really good way to build trust with a brand is to look at brand association and authority boosting. So think again about some of these questions. What brands or products do you work with that have a great reputation? What good publications could you be featured in? So again, thinking about local press, thinking about local magazines, even if it's leaflets that come through the door, think about different brands you could be associated with, where you can get featured. It might be being showcased on another person's podcast or video channel. What other reputable companies could you partner in kind with? So again, looking at the other company to do the legwork for you, there might be another company that has synergy. They don't offer the exact same thing as you, but there's a lot of crossover. So the example I gave to my client yesterday, they do physiotherapy, and I have another client that do podiatry. That's hand in hand. It's how the body moves, it's how the body works. So if they could cross promote one another and partner in terms of sharing content and sharing things, that would really benefit both of their brands. And what well-regarded individuals or community groups could you also have as ambassadors? So thinking about people with a good reputation who run different networking groups or community groups that have a nice connection base, that's your ideal client. Just some things for you to think about here. So fundamentally, what I would recommend for you to do is to show yourself, show your people, and tell your story. So show yourself, show your day-to-day activities, have staff taking selfies, talk about your director journey, talk about how you started your business and where you are now and where you're going. Showing your people, again, those people who live and breathe your values, showcase them, photos of them, meet the team, explain why Jess has X amount of experience in Y. And then tell your story. Don't be afraid to get emotional and tell your story in terms of your brand narrative, the people that you want to help, the impact you've had on your clients and customers. And warm it up. I always call this the warmer meter. How warm is the language that you use? Time and time and time again, even when I'm working with companies that say that they're very warm and very personable, immediately the words that come out is, we're professional, we've got quality, and it's fine, but they're not very warm words. So we need to think about really warming that up. Quality as a service, how can that be warmer? You could talk about impact, you could talk about transition, you could talk about change that you're making to people's lives. Quality is the way that you do it, but what is the impact? Similarly, emotive language such as feelings, so happy, sad, anger, outrage, love, joy, pride. You think about these words and how you use these words, because those are emotional connection words. Thinking about who you're talking to is really, really important. And you must already know who your ideal client is. You must already know the sort of person that's already using your business. So think about potentially writing a little profile for each person that you can speak to. So maybe you're talking to Brenda, who's a runner, and she's young, active, fit. She's always up for a challenge and she's getting outside and she's running. How do you help her life? How do you facilitate that? Maybe we're talking to Sharon. Sharon's a business owner. She needs products and services because she needs to spare up time for herself to kind of live the lifestyle business that she'd like to have. Maybe we're talking to Roger. Roger is a progressive, innovative man. He wants to grow his career, grow his business, or grow personally. Think about each of your clients and think about their lifestyle, where they're going, what they want, what their aspirations are. I can guarantee they have probably already had a conversation with you in reception and told you a little bit about themselves. So don't be afraid to ring them and ask them why they love your business, what they want from their lives, and use that as your blueprint for your social media communications. So I'd like to talk to you about the buying cycle now. And it's interesting to me because whenever I speak to clients, because obviously I focus on digital content, whenever I speak to clients, their big focus is on social media. But through many hours of researching and speaking to people and carrying out audits with people's ideal clients, I came up with a buying cycle, which shows that we're putting a little bit too much emphasis on social media. So let's dig in. This lovely graphic was made by Imagistic, Emma Paxton, and I would thoroughly recommend to use her if you ever want to visualize anything for your team, because she's brilliant. So the beginning of the buying cycle is Google My Business. So you really need to be seen on search engine. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that you set up a Google My Business and that you have you're starting the journey well. Search is over 50% of the digital market space. It's bigger than all social media channels. So it's really important that you actually are capitalizing on this sector. So on your Google My Business, you'd like to have photos. And again, thinking behind the scenes, thinking about team, not taking yourself too seriously. You want to list all your products and services. You want to have loads and loads of testimonials and reviews on there. You want to have your opening times, location. You want to have working links to your website and social media channels. And you want to actively ask people for reviews, because the more reviews you get, you can copy and paste them into social media content, but also it builds trust. So set up an account. And the other thing you need to do is also post something weekly. And people don't even realize you can, but you can post updates weekly, offers weekly. And if you're posting something, it's really, really good for your search. So consider that your first step on the buying cycle. After that, people then go to your website often. So what you need to make sure on your website is it's fully interactive, it's really engaging, it's simple. Don't just fill it full of text. I think it's something like 300 words a page is optimal. Anything over that is difficult and people don't really want to read it. I see companies all the time with reams and reams and reams and reams of content. So think about instead digital downloads, videos, add your reviews from Google, Facebook, wherever you've got them, add them all to your website. Put photos of the team, case studies, blog posts, and blog posts that answer questions are absolutely key, because when people search in Google, they're searching for a question. You know, how do I do photography? Where do I find a photographer? They are looking for questions, so answer questions. Or the best photography tips. That's a perfect blog. You need to make sure that your social media links are all up to date on your website so that they can go into the next stage, and really just make the look and feel visual, interactive and engaging. Because if it's not, they might fall off straight away. They're falling off the circle and they're like, bye, don't really want to do business with you anymore. So what do? Then they go to your social media accounts. And this is why social media is not that important, because it's the third thing on the list here. But it is important in the fact that it personalizes your brand. So really you need to stop the sales and you need to up the personality. So they really want daily activities, your team, your ethos, but they want you just to be having fun. They want to just see the look and feel of you guys and see if you back it up. They want to see a bit of social proof, so put some testimonials on there, make them designed up all pretty, but put the stories of your team, put your little, your fitness challenges you're doing, whatever it is you stand for. If you're for sustainability, maybe you're sharing sustainability links, etc. But really personalize your personalities here, your team here, your story here. Because after that, this is when they're really starting to trust you and they're like, okay, the look and feel is good. The branding is consistent. The way that people talk about them is good. Their tone, their warmth, all the way through this whole journey is consistent. So then they go back to your website and they're ready to buy. So how easy is it for them to buy from you? How easy is it for them to contact you? And I'm not talking about a little contact box. I'm talking about email links, booking into your calendar, being able to phone you immediately. Maybe they can just buy your products and services directly on your website. So my services are all digital, so videography, etc. But they're for sale in my shop. You can just buy them. You can buy it and I'll just design you social media. So make it really, really, really easy. They're ready to give you their money. So be ready to take it. And so finally, what happens once they've gone through the whole cycle is they buy from you. So this is why I think it's so important to talk about the buying cycle, because people just focus on social media, but really you need to be found. You need to be pushing people through search, through blogs, and through your regular posts on Google My Business. You need to be giving them a look and feel, but you need to be consistent with your colors. You need to be consistent with your tone, your language, your words, the look and feel of the photography that you do. It really creates a subtle journey for your client, and essentially they will buy from you. So if you have any questions at all, please do feel free to get in touch with me. My contact details will be in the bio, but otherwise I hope you found that useful, and thank you very much for joining me.